So the mecha genre of anime has been one of the more popular anime genres in the last decade, with shows like Code Geass, Gundam, and Evangelion garnering a large fanbase and just being some of the more popular anime series ever created in general. However, the genre has been on a steady decline ever since the late 2010s, with barely any notable mecha animes being in the spotlight, which is why today I want to talk about an anime called Bokurano, cause many people may not have heard of it. So Bokurano, or Ours, is a mecha anime where children pilot a robot known as the Earth to fight against other robots in order to protect their Earth. However, Bokurano is probably the most unappealing mecha anime I've ever seen. Like, the robots don't look as cool as the ones from Gundams, there are no waifus nor husbandos in the anime, all of them look like supporting characters from other animes, and on top of that, the animation is pretty average. But considering the show came out in 2007, that's pretty average, I guess. So if you're that type of anime fan that watches shows only for good animations or flashy characters, or just a shonen fan in general, this show is probably not for you. And maybe it's because I'm not a huge fan of mecha animes, or I just prioritize having a good story over having good animations in general, but that's probably the reason why I don't mind not having all the stuff in Bokurano. But despite having all these downsides, the anime is still pretty decent. So the main reason why I think Bokurano is so good is ironically because of everything else other than the mecha part of the anime. Like, the fights are pretty boring, they don't fight in outer space, they don't jump across countries or continents, and the robot can't even fly, by the way. So every time there's a fight scene, I would mostly just +5 that shit to get it over with, so I can just see the conclusion, I guess. But all jokes aside though, Bokurano really does a good job in its psychological and drama part of the anime. And I'm gonna talk about it more later, but if you know me, you know I love me my psychological and drama anime. And the show does a pretty good job of shedding light upon some darker sides of society as well, because you get to look at it from different perspectives. One of them is the perspective of the children, and the other is from the perspective of the adults. And even amongst the adults, there are adults with different goals or different motives, and the children as well. Some of them have different goals compared to others. Some of them just want to survive, others want to survive and do something else as well. So it's always pretty fascinating to me just to see how certain writers write this stuff, to see if any of them can come up with something different, I guess. And the best part of it is there's really not much deeper analysis needed, because most of them are pretty much explicitly stated. And even if it does require a bit of thinking, it's not like you need to get a PhD in like psychology or have a degree in literature to actually understand what the writer's trying to convey. However, is it a switch off your brain and watch it type of show? No. But does it require Evangelion level analysis? Also no. And another thing that's pretty underappreciated in the show is just that they pretty much answer all the questions in the show, I guess. So as the show progresses, more and more secrets will start to surface, and you have so many questions in your head. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why does this have to come here? Why does this have to be here? Stuff like that. But eventually all of them are explained towards the end, and even though some of them are not explained, they'll leave you with enough things to work with that you can eventually patch everything together and come up with a conclusion. So yeah, I think it's pretty good that they do that, unlike certain shows out there. So most of the questions would get answered, well, at least most of the ones that I could remember and care about. And now with all that general stuff out of the way, I can finally talk about the best part of the show. But of course, there's gonna be really tiny spoilers ahead, so it's nothing much that's gonna ruin your experience. But of course, if you don't want any spoilers, you can skip to this timeline or just click away. So if you didn't know, the Earth, or the robot that the kids are piloting, is powered with the life force of the child who is piloting it, meaning after every fight, the child would die. And so, as different children are contracted one by one to be the next pilot, it's always interesting to see how they would act. Are they scared? Who did they fight for? Do they want to do this? What will you do knowing you only have a few days left to live? All these questions are presented as a new pilot is chosen and are all answered pretty differently. And essentially it's just kind of like watching shows like Death Parade or Monogatari, where each arc, or in this case every few episodes, talks about a different character and their way of answering all these questions. And although some of them do act the way you would expect them to, like there's always someone who acts like he's the main character although he's not, there's gonna be someone who has an absolute meltdown, there's always someone who's the sole breadwinner of the family, and if they're gone, their family is pretty much fucked, etc, etc. But despite that, some of these characters and their arcs like really hit me. I don't know why, I pretty much expected some of them. Though I didn't cry, it really messed up my feelings a little bit. The post-episode clarity do be hitting different though. But yeah, that's about it. For me, Bokurano is a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 anime, so it's a pretty decent anime, but it's not the next coming of Jesus or one of its kind anime like some other shows out there. So TLDR, is it worth watching? Yes. But is it a must watch? Absolutely not. But if you guys really like the show, you can maybe comment down and tell me why you like it. But if you're gonna include spoilers, remember do include a spoiler tag before you comment. And with that, I'm out. See ya.